Welcome. My name is Carl Johann Schroeder. This is my meetup called Inner Selves for Outer Mastery, where we learn to master the inner world, because that's where the action is. That's what everybody needs to face these days, is the inner patterns that then become the outer world. This physical life is a kind of projection. It's a lot like a movie, really. That's a great metaphor for it. Where basically from your inner world, from the way you think the world works, from your patterns that you set with yourself and how you treat yourself, then you meet other people who believe like you, and together you create realities. But those realities are not very solid. They can change very quickly. They can change as quickly as you change the people you're hanging out with. But the people you hang out with, again, they're a projection, a reflection of what you're believing for yourself, within yourself. So there's an inner source of the outer world. That's what we learn to master. And today's topic, Spirit guides me to choose topics that are very growthful, very challenging for me, because this is about sharing my growth. This is what I love to do. I want to help everyone find their right place in the universe, their passion, what they're meant to do, your gifts that really get you in a flow, that help you to feel wonderful and excited to be you. It's a wonderful, great feeling to be connected from the universe, giving to the universe. This continual cycling of the universe's, the source's energy, whatever you want to call it, God, Goddess, Great Spirit, Source, Muse, whatever you want to call it. There's a great cycling, a circling of energy from the source through you. You share as your cup runneth over, as it were. My background is Christian, so I can come up with references to Jesus and great Bible quotes, but to be clear, I love all spiritual traditions, and then I don't particularly like all religious institutions that turn the spirituality, the living, loving relationship with the universe, turning that into a rule-based system with rewards and punishments. That's the problem. So pure, real spirituality is about being in this continual flow, this continual cycling of receiving from the source what you need to thrive, really reaching a state of being able to actually share that with others. And the sharing process is in no way shutting off your source, so now I have enough, therefore now it's time for me to give to others. No, you keep receiving what you need to thrive. It's just that you've grown to a point where, wow, I'm ready to share this. So I've been spending my whole life just enamored with the universe, just amazed at how good life can be. And of course, also very appalled, very upset, very angry, very scared at how bad life can be. But that is in the created reality of people sharing belief systems, sharing ways of life that don't really work for them. There are positive belief systems that reconnect us with our true flow. So again, the idea that we get from the source what we need to thrive, because the source always just gives to us unconditional love, just whatever you want, whatever you need to thrive, here you go. Receiving that, expressing that as taking care of ourselves, building our own beautiful, flourishing life, reaching a point where I am ready to share, and the universe will bring to you opportunities to share. And then giving to other people who are receiving what you have to offer, and being in an exchange. Actual interactions with other people are always an exchange of value. You have something to give, and you have something to receive. So everybody is plugging in together. There's an exchange of value, of life energy across the boundary between consciousnesses, and that boundary is mysterious and amazing. How do consciousnesses actually communicate? Because each consciousness is its own parallel universe. And science says parallel universes, alternate universes, can't really communicate. But we do. We do communicate not by causality, not by making things happen to each other. Because causality is all about the physical impact. We're still in our own bubble. We're still on our own energy. But there's a resonance effect. You tune into beliefs and you find yourself in the same space as others. So basically, I love to receive from the universe the guidance, the inspiration, the nourishment that helps me to thrive. And then I share that with other people who are in the same space as me of being interested in what I'm interested in. And there is an ability to communicate between consciousnesses, between different universes. We inspire each other. We share gifts. We share strengths. And then that energy goes back to the source again. So there's a continual cycling from the source of all life through an individual, meeting other individuals, meeting together, and then back each to their source. So there's kind of this kind of action of like or maybe around and around, but yes, we're all here to share and receive, to give and receive. And we live in a culture of many false beliefs that has created a society of much dysfunction. So there's much to be heard about, afraid of, and angry at. And that's today's topic. Positive anger. What is positive anger? Positive anger helps you to have good boundaries. And we'll go into lots of great detail about this. But positive anger for good boundaries and gratitude to receive more gifts of life. Because if you think about it in a very simple, basic way, the idea is that you're angry when you don't get what you need. But then if you solve whatever problem, whatever blockage you were having that was making you angry, then you're getting what you need and suddenly you're grateful. So really anger and gratitude can go very closely together. Now, to understand that there is a positive and negative version of everything. So people may be surprised to hear, what, anger? There's a positive form of anger? Oh no, I was raised to think anger, that's just destructive. That's what mean, unforgiving, cruel people do to each other. They get angry and they hurt each other, and gosh, I wouldn't want to do that. So sure, there is that form of anger. There is that negative anger where people are just ranting at each other. But really what they're fighting is they're fighting their own belief choices. First, we made choices that then got us into the company of other people who believe that similar way. And we may not do the exact same thing as each other. You know, people talk about reality as a kind of mirror. Yes, it does give you back images of what you are doing within yourself, but it can be more of a matching system. Who fits with who? You don't necessarily see on the surface, oh, I'm not a bully, I'm a victim. That person is a bully. So therefore, should I think that, oh, the bullies are bad and mean and all the poor victims, they're good people. Everyone's good, everyone's a victim, everyone's having some experiences with bullying. What happens is the original source of all the abuse, all the bullying, all the things that we need to get angry at is the false belief systems. We bought into ideas of how we thought life should work, and we keep trying to make it work, and it's not working that way. And it ends up becoming so abusive. It's such an abusive lifestyle. Then if we keep going in that direction of projecting, we think, oh, somebody's doing it to me. And then you get societies of people who are indeed doing things to each other. So there's a sort of division of labor with all the people who are in the same suffering boat together, believing false beliefs such as domination, a major false belief that you should make other people do what's right. It's like, no, actually, it's never going to work. You're never going to be able to make other people do the right thing. It's like, but I can force them. I can provide lots of incentives. You'll be punished if you do the wrong thing. But they still have their own thoughts and feelings. They have their own experience. You can never override another person's experience. Each consciousness has its own unique way of experiencing everything. And that is the source of the fact that each consciousness is its own universe. We are actually trying to communicate across parallel universes, which again, as I said, science says is impossible. A universe is like from the very beginning of the Big Bang or whatever, the laws, how the physics works out. So how would, an entire universe have anything to do with another universe? It's like that's a totally parallel, alternate existence. You would have to be that other universe to have any experience of that other universe, right? Well, yes and no. What's happening, and this is what modern spirituality teaches and needs to teach. See, the old spirituality was right in there with all the other negative beliefs of, all the dominating people. The dominating people think we're in one world, we got scarce resources, don't you dare take from me. I'm going to kill you if I'm going to threaten to kill you if you don't do what I say. That's domination. But even more so, that is being dominated by a false belief system that says we live in only one reality and we have to compete over resources. The truth is that each of us is our own reality, is our own universe, is our own consciousness, experiencing everything our own way. You can never change the fact that another consciousness will have its own experience. I mean, I feel like I was very tormented by this simple fact for a long time, that I am a person who was more tuned into just how good life can be, how good the universe can be. I've been more tuned in from an early age. I've had a lot of spiritual, mystical experiences my whole life. But that's on the spiritual side. And then on the human side, hey, I'm right in there with everybody else. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe what a dangerous, scary, hurtful world this can be. This is wrong. This isn't right. Now, there are a lot of people who, like, they don't know anything else. They think that's the only way to be. So they buy into that system. How can I make this work for me? And that's when people become dominating. I'm going to make other people do what they should do. I've had from an early age a sense of like, no, the universe is so good, is so loving, is so generous. Just look at nature. I mean, nature would provide all of our needs just with like absolute bounty, just year after year, harvests and, the health, and like just give it time and the system works. That's just a hint of how good the universe really is, how good life really is. Life doesn't consume resources. Life produces resources. Life produces its own resources. Life begets more life. So for me at an early age to be tuned into just how good the universe can be, and I had the benefit of pretty nice parents. They were doing their best for their kids. Me and my sister, younger sister, my parents doing everything they could to help us have a wonderful life. The thing is, they came from their own abuse. My father grew up in Nazi Germany as a boy, seeing horrible things, this crazy society around him. He wanted to get away from that as soon as he could. So in his early 20s, he came over to the United States. And he met my mother, who had her own abuse history, domestic violence, a father who was just like crazy, just like a really mean, cruel person, traumatized everyone in the family. That whole side of my family is just really disturbed and disturbing. And my mother got away from it, met my father, and the two of them build the best life they can for their kids. And for them, they took it very simply at face value. I should not be like the mean people, the angry people, the hurtful people that I grew up with. I'm going to be really kind and nice and we're going to give our kids the best life, and they're just going to know happiness. Well, yes, I knew happiness. They were helping me and my sister to have some happy moments. But hey, I mean, the world is what it is. I mean, children are not blind. Kids know that something's wrong in the world. Kids are like, hey, my nature as a child is to imagine wonderful things, to want to play, to want to share, to have wonderful friends, have a wonderful life, to dream big of all the fantastic things we'll do. I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to be a fireman. I'm going to be a parent. I'm going to be an explorer. I'm going to be, inventor and an artist, and like all these things you imagine as a kid. And then as you grow up, you find out like, hey, something's wrong. I mean, I can't do the things that I would love to do. I'm having I don't know what's going on. I'm just so upset. And my inner upset is matched by a world that can be brutal. And then people get into rescuer mode. They start to imagine well, if I can just change the system, I would help the people who are suffering like me. And that's a wonderful impulse to want to help someone. The thing is, the only way to really help anyone is to help ourselves. We have to learn to understand what's going on and to change it starting from within ourselves. There's a template within ourselves that is our projection of how the world works. And then secondarily, we meet the people who create the societies around these belief systems. So yeah, for a long time, I shied away from anger. I saw anger as like that's what mean people do. They get angry, they go berserk, they just like, you took from me and I'm going to take from you, and they justify all kinds of hurtful things. Well, I don't want to be like that. And my parents didn't want to be like that. So my household was very much, growing up, it was a place where you just try to focus on the good things, be nice to each other, and try to not think about the bad things, and try to not get angry and all that kind of stuff. Well, I mean, when you go into the world, my parents had already been through the world. My parents had already been through a lot of abusive, awful, horrible things, and that's why they were trying to give their kids the best possible life. But they can't shelter their kids from the fact that I'm going to go to school, I'm going to meet other people, you're going to meet a variety of people in life. And the variety of people are going to show you different ways to live. And you're going to see some really good stuff and some really bad stuff. And there's this fundamental misconception that somehow the world should be all good someday. That there'll be no problems, there'll be no mean people should just not exist. That's not true. You see, this reality experience is meant to always be partly what's good for you and partly what's not good for you. Reality, the collective. People talk a lot about the collective and how can we make the collective wake up? How can we get everybody to agree we should have a wonderful world? We should all work together to bring back a thriving nature, to have wonderful lives. Yeah, that's good stuff. I agree. That's what I believed in. That's what I was tuned in with the help of my parents and my own nature of tuning into the universe. Yeah, life could be so good. But I kept meeting, and you read about in the paper, and you meet people in life who do horrible, unfair things. And you think the first reaction is, well, I just have to change them. That's domination. That's not true. You cannot change somebody else. What you can do is change yourself so you will meet different people. Oh, but if I just meet different people, then I'm just in my own little happy tribe, in my own little happy pocket. But someday the bad guys will come for me, right? No, if they aren't in your reality. If you cleanse from yourself, you purge from yourself the beliefs that they are out there. So it's a little bit of a catch-22. It's like, how can I stop believing what I'm experiencing? Well, because the beliefs really do come first. So you do have to go through the human experience. You do have to have some reactions to the world, the society that your human self currently is in. So you're going to feel those things. You're going to feel like the four big main emotions are the hurt and the fear and the anger and the loneliness, the grief, the sadness, different ways to put it, but basically your sense of disconnection from a life that could be so good, but you're not getting it. So yeah, you need to have a human experience in the current society. To learn how to drive a car, normally you would enter a car. The thing is, with life, you're already in the car. It's like, oh, I'd like to learn how to drive my car of life. Well, you're already doing it. What? And you're like, and you freak out and you drive off the road. And it's like, see, I told you were already driving the car. It can seem very unfair. It can seem very unfair that we're already running everything that runs our life. On the other hand, that's the great opportunity. We wouldn't want to actually have it any other way. We wouldn't want to have some kind of discontinuity of like, yeah, there was a time when I had no control over my life. I couldn't drive a car. I didn't enter a car. And then I gradually learned how to drive the car. No, you need to be already driving the car. It doesn't make sense as a metaphor in causality in time and space, in their linear reality. That's why we have this reality, this physical world where things are kind of spread out in space so that other people aren't in my face. I can have a little private space where I can reflect on things. And it's spread out in time so I can think about what happened and I can plan for something better to happen. But it is actually happening all at once. There is a total energy of you that is then driving your experience of reality. So in fact, beliefs do precede experience. Your ideas of how the universe works came first at a certain level. Only that level is already that ship has already sailed. You're already on that boat. you're already with that group of people who believe the way you believe. You're already having those experiences. So first, you do have to be human. You have to be in the game, have some reactions, and then if you manage your reactions properly, you can get to a deeper level, a spiritual observation of how good life could be, and there are these problems. You can step back and you can start identifying, where did I believe that the universe works this way, but it never works that way? I want to give up that false belief, that false negative belief, like in domination. The false belief that, like, oh, someday the world will be good if I can just make everybody see and think, the way I do. But you can't. That's a fundamentally false belief. Everybody has their own consciousness. Everybody will make their own decisions. Well, then how do I get away from these problem people? How do I not just create a little happy tribe of myself, me and my friends, until someday the bad guys come and knock down our door? Well, there will be no bad guys in your reality when you have no bad guys in your belief system. So you do have to go through the human experience and have reactions, really be a hot mess, be in the world. But you don't have to take it in more of that negative direction. That the collective reality will always have, about half of it will be opportunities for you to keep going in the same direction with the same stuff you got. And the other half will be stuff that is really better for you. So there will always be this split, this ambivalence about reality. It's meant to be that way. But then people are trained to think, no, the world should be perfect. The world should be beautiful. That I've got to convince all the bad guys. If I'm a nice person, I'll just talk to them and incentivize, and I'll explain how good life could be. And then what? They still want to have a war. No, you don't understand. We could have peace. They still want to have a war. You don't understand. There are people who want to have a war. There are people who want the world to go to hell, and they fight over scarce resources until everyone dies. They want to try to compete to be the last one standing. There are all these dictators and all these followers of dictators. You need to let them go. It's a totally different belief system. It's a totally different way to live. And as a human being, you're like, I can't just have that stuff. They're going to kill me. Well, yes, if you were only a human being who had to live in the same beliefs, who could never change your basic deep functioning, you would be in a lot of trouble. But there is this deeper level. So instead of having the negative reactions, we need to have positive reactions. You're going to have reactions. You're going to have to be in your human self, experiencing the front lines of your personal life. Well, does that mean I have to run out to the war zone? No. You already have your own personal life. Focus on your own personal life and what life brings to you to deal with. And that will be plenty. That will be plenty. You can have intense experiences just as disturbing and upsetting as people who are living in a war zone without having to go to a war zone. You can have ways of learning these basic deep lessons about how life could be and alternate belief systems without having to go to the absolute extremes. Also like the Holocaust. I mean, just how horrific, how what a horrible experience just to teach a basic lesson that there ought to be diversity. That every person belongs, that every human being has a right and a place, and we should celebrate diversity. We should create a society where everybody is given an opportunity to shine, to develop their own gifts, and we just trust nature. We just trust the source that everybody is here for a reason. Everybody is going to have some contribution to a greater society. That's the fundamental ideal of the United States. The United States is in no way a perfect country. Again, as I said, any collective, you're going to see half of it is not good for you and half of it is better for you. So half of it is more of who you want to be and half of it is less of who you want to be. So you look at the United States and it's you're going to see there's some really great stuff, but there's some really horrible stuff. So yeah, the United States has those ideals of a society of diversity and harmony, setting up a basic government system that would allow people to be equal and free and pursue happiness as long as you're equal as, white privileged men, right, who founded the system. I mean, there are plenty of those founding fathers who had good intentions. There were also plenty who were hypocrites. I mean, Thomas Jefferson, he writes the Declaration of Independence. He writes this beautiful, lofty language about how we're all created equal and we're going to pursue happiness together. And then he owns slaves, and he used male language, so it wasn't ever clearly stated that, hey, men and women, okay? It's like, no, all men are created equal. And you know what? He stole his ideas. Jefferson didn't even get, this is a little bit of my own peeve, I'm going to experience a little bit of the anger here, right? You got to find the injustices in life. You can get plenty bent out of shape, plenty upset in the injustices just from where you are without having to run out to dangerous places to try to rescue people. If later on you're in touch with your guidance and your source, your guidance guides you like, yes, you will be safe. Now go there and help those people. That's legit. That's legitimate rescuing. That's positive rescuing. As I said, everything has a positive and negative form. Negative rescuing is when you're in denial of your own issues and you're trying to run out and rescue somebody, fix somebody's life who's reminding you of your own pain. My pain will go away if just all of you people are happy. So I'm going to rescue you all. You can't make other people happy. You can't change other people's thoughts and feelings. They're always going to have their own experience. So negative rescuing is really in denial, running away from the stuff we have inside personally and putting ourselves in danger instead of staying in our own personal life and dealing with everything that comes to us from there. We run out and we try to rescue people. You will get into a lot of dangerous situations if you're doing negative rescue. Positive rescue is when you've actually already gone through that process of, I care about the world as I see it and experience from my own life. I find the beliefs in me that I needed to change so I was more connected with a giving, abundant universe. And then my own personal guidance guided me to safely, wisely, effectively go out there and help people. That's beautiful. That's positive rescuing. So everything has a positive and negative version. So there is a positive way to change the world, and there's a negative way to change the world. The positive way to change the world is that you get in touch with your beliefs, you change who you are, you change your essential functioning. And then, based on the fact that you're a different person, you will fundamentally meet different people who share your beliefs that are now different. And you will kind of stepping stone hop to a different reality because there is no solid reality out there. It's an illusion of the mind. You want, as a human being, to believe, hey, there's a solid single world I can rely on, I can trust. I need to be able to be a reactive human being in a world that doesn't just fall apart. When in fact, the real world, it's plenty safe. It's held together by the love of the universe, but it's actually constantly shifting sea of possibilities. You're effectively, everybody's in their own bubble of energy, and you are simply meeting the next person who fits with your own expectations. If you have different expectations, you will go in a totally different direction. And as you meet situations, you build up an idea of like, oh, I guess there's this world out there. And you will indeed read news headlines that fit with your ideas and so on. You will have this human experience of there being one world out there. But the spiritual truth that you can tune into at a deeper level, there's no single world out there. There's an infinite sea of consciousnesses. And every consciousness has its own belief system that then filters its experiences, creates its experiences to then think that there's a certain world. And you will find yourself in a world of people who believe like you. So the positive way to change the world, it's not the negative way. Negative way is domination. If you're nice, you try to just convince people, but you never can. For some reason, there are still these mean people who want to have a war, even when I explained all the benefits of peace. And then if you're a mean person, well, hell, I'm just going to kill everybody who's in my way. So I become one of those outright bullies, dictators, abusive people who just get rid of everything that's in my way. That's the negative way to change the world. The positive way to change the world is that you process your human emotions. You respect your human reactions from your life. You don't jump ship. You don't get out of your life. You know, a lot of people on the spiritual path, it's like, oh my gosh, my life is so small and insignificant. I got to jump ship. I got to get out there. And like a lot of people break their life just to try to save their life. So stay in your life. Stay in your lane for now. You're not not compromising, you're not settling. I want to become more of the real me, and I'm going to do that by a continuity of taking care of myself. So the positive way to change the world is you take care of yourself and you have your human reactions. And you notice that you can have a positive version of everything that's negative out there. You see people who get angry at injustices, whether it's a personal injustice, it's you took my stuff and I'm going to kill you and get my stuff back, or I need more stuff, or if it's like truly they are pursuing justice of like, you're hurting other people, I'm going to hurt you if you don't stop hurting other people. It's all this hurt-based system of trying to dominate people. It's like, I'm going to realize like, okay, as a human being, that whole system is just horrible. It's just abusive. We can't run a world like that. And then the false belief systems say, but oh, that's the only way it works. That's the world. Sorry, it's a hard world. But if you work hard, if you try to convince people, if you do this, if you do that, you will change it. No, you're never going to change a fundamental system. The fundamental beliefs of a society that works a certain way, it's always going to work that way. Beliefs are their own eternal creation, their own eternal universe, their own eternal experience. So you don't make negative beliefs into positive beliefs. You don't make people who believe negatively to suddenly believe positively and behave better. No, you yourself have to change beliefs. You're the only one who can run your own consciousness. Everybody's running your own consciousness. The only person you can change in the world is you. And then if you do it in a positive way, if you change the world in a positive way of changing yourself, you will meet new people, new situations, and your mind will put together this picture of, that's amazing. As I cleaned myself up and I tuned in with the great universe, the world just seemed to change very quickly. Like, I don't know, like I thought I was the only one getting this, but then other people were getting it too, and a lot of people seemed to wake up, and the world changed very quickly. And you can wonder from your human self, who's deep in the reactions, like, how could the world change fast enough? Well, I was thinking about this recently, like 3 basic ways that people could change. You know, there are all these problem people in the world that are like abusing the system, creating pollution, wars, hurting each other, and you get angry. That's wrong. That's wrong. Yes, as a human being, you get angry at other people who are doing things in a hurtful, unjust way. But what you really want to do is feel the anger to tune you into which people are running beliefs that you don't believe. And then you find those beliefs in yourself and you change it in yourself. So you have to do a constant process of having a human reaction to identify what you want to change in the world, then being grateful that that example came to you. As awful as these people are, I'm glad they showed up because it gave me a clear picture of how I don't want to live, what doesn't work. And if I know that the world could change quickly, if I change myself, then I won't hold on to them. I won't try to change them. I will actually have a kind of gratitude. Even the worst acting people in your life, it's not a gratitude of like, oh, I'm so glad you're in my life. Come home, come over for dinner or whatever. It's like, no, that's an awful way to be. You're being an awful, horrible person, dangerous. I want to only love you from a safe distance. That's what my soul always likes to say. Carl, you can love anyone from the right distance. I want to love the fact that people showed up to show me just how dysfunctional they can be. They are somehow holding a belief system that is driving them to do horrible things that will kill other people, kill themselves, destroy the world, and they actually think that's good. They're actually people who want to compete and fight to the bitter end. They have some crazy ideas that like war will lead to peace. There'll be just have to get rid of all the bad guys. It's like, no, war never leads to peace. Everyone's always traumatized. Everybody's always bracing for the next war. If the only way I know how to solve conflict is to have a big war, then, there's temporary peace. But as soon as there's a little conflict, like, you want to have spaghetti for dinner, I want to have pizza. Oh, it's a conflict. We got to have a war. Look at how much, there's so much war vocabulary in our society. Everything is like the war on poverty, the war on this, the war on that. My friends and I are having a war over this, where people play war. People think they can win war. People like make endless movies about the glories of banding together so that we can fight the enemy and have a war. And yeah, you can experience in your own little bubble, your own little tribe, all kind of wonderful altruistic caring about each other. But if your fundamental life is based on we're at war with the enemy. I'm having wonderful experiences of caring about my friends because we're on this side, we're on the good guy side, and we're in war. Now you got to find ways to let go the fundamental concept that there's a war going on. There isn't a war. The war is with ourselves on the path to finding the false beliefs that we need to let go of. So on the path of discovering what did I believe that connected me with other people and into a reality that's so dysfunctional, I'm going to have to find ways of reacting as a human being, having that anger at mean, bad people, but then taking that anger in a positive direction of okay, that my anger helped me to identify the people I don't want to be like them. And then I can be grateful that they're such a good, bad example. They're such a clear, bad example. Now I can think about, at a safe distance, I take care of myself, I love myself, and I love them not enough to not go shoot them, right? I love some of these people enough to not hurt them. I'm going to, let them be at a safe distance. And then you take it to the next level of, okay, human being, thank you for having your reactions. Your anger focused me on something we have to change, the kind of people that we can't be around. Now I can think about what are the values? What are the choices? What are the beliefs those people have? And where do I have matching values and beliefs and choices? It's I don't believe in hurting people. Yeah, but you believed that you were in a single world trapped with those people that you had to somehow change against their will, and that's hurting them. Any kind of I have to change somebody, that's hurting their consciousness. Even if but I'm going to be so nice, I'm going to be the most benevolent king, you're still a dictator. If you are telling somebody what to do, not giving them a chance to discover their own reasons for that, just giving them incentives, explaining society could be so wonderful if you just do it this way. You'd think that if there really was just one world, we would have had a wonderful society by now. It's actually a proof that every consciousness has its own universe. The fact that even, the best society that, the Enlightenment principles and everything could design in the United States. I'm not saying the United States is the only best country. Clearly we have lots of problems, but the principles were founded on, the ideals, they came out of an experience of Europe's Enlightenment. And while France went to a bloody revolution, the United States was going to a declaration of principles that were so powerful that we won the American Revolution. We didn't win it by force. We didn't win it by violence. We won it by ideals, by principles. John Adams and George Washington, these were really good people with really powerful principles and ideals. And then somebody like Thomas Jefferson, well, he's very split. He keeps slaves, but he got his slaves from marrying his wife, so he just wants male language. All men are created equal. I mentioned a little pet peeve of mine that Thomas Jefferson stole those ideas. He actually had an Italian neighbor named Philip Mazzei, and this is historical, and occasionally you'll read about it. There was actually a postage stamp that saluted Philip Mazzei. Anyway, he's an Italian doctor. He came from Italy. He resettled in the United States. He lived near Thomas Jefferson. And he was appalled by the system of slavery in the United States. So even though he was friends with Jefferson, they were friends because they loved to talk about all kinds of principles and ideals and philosophies. He was appalled by the fact that Thomas Jefferson kept slaves. He didn't keep slaves. Philip Mazzei, he needed workers for his vineyards. He wanted to retire as a wealthy doctor in the United States and run a vineyard like Jefferson was running a vineyard. But he kept workers. He had black workers. He paid them. He didn't see them as slaves. He didn't treat them as slaves. Now, to not have the whole system attack him, he officially said, okay, they live here, they're my workers. He didn't let it be known, but Jefferson knew, Mazzei, he doesn't treat them as slaves. He pays them. He treats them as workers, and he gives them the best possible living conditions he can. But Jefferson didn't want to do that. Jefferson wanted to maximize his wealth and privilege. So, he kept slaves. They did not live well. He he used the slaves for his purpose. Sally Hemings was his slave lover. He had children with them. It's like this whole history, and then like he's a founding father. So yeah, I get angry and upset at Jefferson, but it just really goes to show you, if you buy into belief systems, it's not easy to change. I mean, it is actually easy to change, but you have to go through a process. You cannot skip steps. So back to the point of, you need to go through some human reactions as the person who lives in a belief system. I live in this one belief system that becomes this one world where I'm stuck with other people, and then I see the injustices and I get angry at them. Have your human reactions, your human emotions, but then learn how to take them in a positive direction. Okay, I use my anger to be grateful. This is where anger and gratitude go together. I'm grateful for examples of what I'm angry at, what's wrong. Then I can see at a distance, there are these people like Jefferson. They talk great ideals and they keep slaves. And they write a Declaration of Independence that only has male language. And people have to fight for over 100 years for women to finally get the right to vote. Oh, it should be implied. No, it has to be explicit. Okay, your beliefs have to be explicit. You have to know what you believe. If you don't know what you believe, you're going to fall into situations where people rub you the wrong way. It's, again, another evidence that every consciousness is creating its own universe. You need to become more and more conscious of the beliefs that are running your life. If you don't, you will... It's not like you can just coast and cruise. It's like, oh, I don't really understand how life works, but everything's nice, I'm nice. No, you will increasingly meet unfair situations, unfair people. Why? Because you are pushing yourself. You need to be a consciousness who increasingly masters your belief systems, runs your own universe. And you don't actually have to invent a paradise. Paradise already exists. That's the source. You already have a higher self, a source you, that has a paradise of all the positive beliefs. So you don't have to make the world work. Another fundamental false assumption. So one false assumption was there's only one world that I'm stuck in, and I have to make people change. No. There's one world you're stuck in as long as you're a human being who needs to have some reactions to people. Then you can step back into your spiritual beliefs and identify, where are my values and principles that are different from those people that I need to get away from. And it's the strength of your values and principles that is going to build a new life, not your violence. So as I said, the United States, it won the American Revolution. It separated from England for various reasons, but really at the core was because it had great ideals and principles. Not because in France, they're going to a bloody revolution, because that's old Europe. Everybody's steeped in their ways, and it's not changing anytime soon. They weren't going to have a new constitution without some kind of bloody revolution. So I'm giving some history here. There are reasons, my own karmic reasons, why I really relate to this stuff. But the idea, again, that I want to wrap this up, that the point is you need to have your human reactions to then get into a spiritual observation of how good the world could be. And then, as I said, another false belief is then you have to somehow make things happen. You don't have to make things. You just inherit. You become more of the real you. See, false negative beliefs are easy to let go of when you see clearly, like, this isn't how my life works. It may not be how life works in general. It doesn't work in general that people should dominate each other and that you have to convince and coerce people. No, that's just generally false. You also have personal truths. It is personally true, I need to be in a certain profession to really express and experience my talents and gifts and passions. I can't do what other people can do. So you can be in a world that's pretty decent overall. It has like wonderful principles. Nobody like goes to war. Nobody believes that you have to force anybody else. We all trust that there's a source that will guide us. But you can still have issues, challenges of finding what's right for you. So you want to tune into that. You want to tune into like, look, there is already a source behind this reality that's so troubled. You know, this is just a pocket of trouble in a greater universe that's so good. So I need to just tune into that greater universe, and greater universe help me to feel safe enough to find out what it is I really care about as a person, to find the beliefs that work for me. Because I don't want to stay stuck on like, okay, My parents weren't monsters. They didn't, abuse me, destroy me, but they did tell me, you have to be a lawyer. You can't possibly be an artist. You'll never make it. That's another kind of abuse, when people tell you what you have to do. Like, no, what you want is people who say, like, here's some suggestions of what worked for me, but by all means, find what works for you. We believe in you. You have your own way. You're a gift from the universe. A newborn child, to parents, to good parents, to loving parents, they realize, like, this child is a gift from the universe. We don't know yet. The child doesn't even know yet what they're going to be when they grow up. But we just want to give them every opportunity to find out, to figure out what's right for them. So if you tune into how good the universe is, you go through your human reactions, you improve your beliefs, your higher guidance will guide you to more positive beliefs. And you will tune into a paradise that already exists. And you will realize there is a source behind this troubled reality that already works. You tune into more of that. You become more of that. It's so easy you're just becoming more of your own self. Like, I don't have to figure out what do I need to do to earn money to make my life work. Just become more of your real self. There was that book, that movement, like, do what you love and the money will follow. Well, do what you love and the money will follow you if you have the beliefs that support that. If you don't believe it, it won't happen. You'll keep running into trouble. But it's true. If you just be yourself, that's all the universe wants from you. You are your own unique consciousness, your own way of experiencing everything. You exist because you have a purpose, you have a belonging. You already have a function in paradise. There's already a greater you, your higher self, who is in that functioning paradise. Just tune into it. Just have human reactions to this current reality. Realize what you need to change in yourself. Tune into more of your real self, your higher self. Become more of the flowing, joyful, passionate you. And yes, you will do what you love, and the money, more than just money, the friends, the support, the opportunities will follow, and the whole world will change around you. That's the positive world to change. Positive way to change the world is that you change yourself. The negative way to change the world is that you try to change other people. That's the military approach. The spiritual approach of, I'm going to change myself and the world will change around me, there's no military applications. You go to the Pentagon and say, hey, everybody, if we all just meditate and change ourselves, the world will change. Like, they don't want to hear that. They want to hear, like, you've got some psychic ability so they can figure out what the enemy's planning so that they can get there first and destroy the enemy. It's like, sorry, folks. Like, the universe is a good place. Everybody has their own paradise. I cannot tell you how to use your psychic gifts, misuse them. So that's negative use of psychic gifts. Positive use is that you psychically intuit where you belong. You don't go to people that you can't convince that would fight you. You go to people who are already trying to do the things you are trying to do, and the two of you resonate and help each other go further. So you're looking for the places of people who already believe what you're working on. They're trying to believe it more. You're trying to believe it more. That's why we're here today, right? We're trying to believe and understand how positive things could work. And I'm telling you, they really do. I love this work. This is my passion. I want to help you find your passion because you were created to thrive. You come from the source. You are a form of the source. You are the universe experiencing itself through your position. You have the entire positive universe to help you have the most wonderful life forever. That is how you can get there. And you'll be grateful forever because you went through your anger and turned the anger positive. So, in short, that's what we're here for today, to see how positive anger will lead very quickly to a better life that you will feel tremendous gratitude for. So thank you. That was my inspired introduction. You remind me, a little unfinished point from my introduction. I wanted to say, I've been thinking recently about how will the problem people disappear from the world? How will things change quickly enough? And three things were coming to me. Three main ways we can, like, in a positive way, expect that the problem people will move out of reality. One is that they'll change. They'll have their own spiritual awakenings. And I had, I was reading a story about, some of the Crusaders, one in particular, in the 12th century, some of these brutal people, but they realized, like, what am I doing? I'm like killing people in the name of like the Crusades and Jesus, and like this doesn't make sense. So a lot of people like came to awakenings, and they dropped their warrior ways, and they become hermits, and a lot of them become the saints. So there was one I was reading about, Saint Galgano. He was actually the source of the Arthurian legend, the sword and the stone. He was a crusader who, in the year 1180, he had a vision of Archangel Michael saying, like, I want you to stop doing war. And he's like, I can't do that any more than I could drive this sword into a stone. And he threw down his sword, and his sword went into the soil, but it was hard enough soil that it was kind of the metaphor of a stone, and so he became a hermit, and that they enshrined that sword in the ground, which became more solid over time, and they turned that into the Arthurian legend of you pull out the sword and you're right to rule, which actually is a complete corruption of the real point. The point is that
that's amazing.
you
Wow.
put the sword into the ground and you never take it out again. That's your right to rule, that you give up violence. Isn't that interesting?
That's really, I didn't know that, Carl. Wow.
Yeah, so cool, so cool. And so to finish the thought, that one way is people change because they have their own spiritual awakenings and they regret what they did. Second way people will change is that the old ways will die off. You know, just like they're out of power, they're too old, the young generation doesn't do that thing anymore. People will die off. And the third way that things can change, that a lot of mean people will disappear. They honestly will just disappear. Life will become more dreamlike. There will be these Mandela effects of like, hey, whatever happened to so-and-so? I don't know. They're not around anymore. They disappeared. Like, we can all agree that used to be there, but it's not there now. That life is a waking dream. There doesn't have to be a total continuity of logic. You don't have to say like, well, logically this person must be around. No, the real logic is love. If love increases, the continuity is love. Like, oh, problems disappeared, people disappeared. How could that happen? Well, in love increased. It was better for everyone. Yeah, that makes sense. That would happen. So yeah, 3 ways that problem people can disappear. They change, they die off, or they just plain disappear. Let it happen. Isn't that amazing? So
Yep.
that was fun to say. Thank you.